This is WBUR's Morning Edition. Layoffs and federal funding cuts hit biotech in the state hard this year. But Scott Kirsner, columnist for our editorial partner MassLive, reports there are a few bright spots. And one is a company out of Waltham that raised money by jumping into the weight loss drug market with an interesting twist. Their drugs are developed and tested in China. Scott's here to tell us more. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
So we're talking about Kirsner, this company out of Waltham. What drugs are they making?
They're making drugs that fall into this class called GLP-1s. People are probably familiar by now with Ozempic and Wegovy and Zepbound, lots of the brand names of these drugs.
Weight loss drugs.
Weight loss drugs. And they are looking at developing an injectable that they say the early clinical trials in China prove maybe actually more effective at producing weight loss. And then their second generation product they hope is going to be a pill that you can take orally. And the pill may not produce as much weight loss, but they say that may be a maintenance dose after you've hit your goal weight to stay there.
And just to note, the state of the play in the field right now is injectables.
Everything is injectable. Companies are really racing to develop pills because people find them more convenient. They're less expensive to produce.
Price has been an issue. In fact, some insurers in Massachusetts aren't covering them anymore.
Price has been an issue. I think if you pay out of pocket, the estimates are these drugs are $500 to $1,000 a month. It's possible that as we get more onto the market, price competition will set in and those prices could go down. And obviously, eventually, some of these drugs will come off patent and you'll be able to see generics. But that's not what Kirsner is doing.
So what are they doing?
They are kind of bargain hunting. And there's a lot of pharma and biotech companies that are bargain hunting in China this year. If you think about the cost of developing and testing a drug in the United States, it is like shopping at Neiman Marcus. It's very expensive. And so this bargain hunting is like shopping at TJ Maxx. They're looking for drugs that have been discovered and tested in China very inexpensively, and then they are licensing them to U.S. and other pharma companies to sell them outside of China.
So there's a lot in there in this TJ Maxification of weight loss drugs. When I first heard about it, Scott, read your story, I thought, well, what does that mean for the future of life sciences in Massachusetts if the R and the D, the research and the development, go to China?
The estimate is that about 1/3 of all licensing deals, so companies getting some rights to a new drug, are coming from Chinese developed drugs. And that's a global number. So this is not just one company in Waltham doing it. The thing to watch is how are these companies going to grow? Kirsner now has 140 employees. None of them are really doing research and development. If you look at the jobs they're hiring for, it's people to run clinical trials, people to manage the supply chain, finance managers. And so these companies may not grow as big as earlier generations of biotech companies where you had dozens or hundreds of scientists sitting in Kendall Square developing new drugs.
So last question. This week, President Trump is in Asia. We know that there are significant tariffs back and forth between the U.S. and China. Does that play into the future of a company like Kirsner?
It does, and there are a few layers of things going on. I mean, layer number one is Kirsner tells me they're going to make it in the United States to avoid those tariffs.
So developed there, but made here.
Yes, we already talked about lots of licensing deals. And then the final layer is that there's legislation proposed called the Biosecure Act that would actually limit some of the things that U.S. biotech and pharma companies could do in China under the umbrella of protecting our national security and our national interests. So China is very much at center stage in the biopharma industry right now.
More to watch. Scott Kirsner is columnist with our editorial partner, MassLive. Scott, thanks.
Thanks so much.
And you can read his full piece on masslive.com.